Doug, can you explain what you mean by goal orientation?
Well, I'll do my best. So goal orientation is a component of what we call commitment. And what we know about goal orientation, I suppose it's to do with the extent to which you have a sense of purpose. And for you, that purpose is worthwhile. So we see the idea of purpose sort of coming to the top of the agenda in so many aspects of our lives. It's now a big issue in leadership. It's a big issue in things like intrinsic motivation. And it's actually central to our intrinsic motivation. And it's really describing the extent to which you can visualize. So again, we're talking about visualization, what it is that you should be achieving and the extent to which you think it's a worthwhile purpose. So if you think it's worthwhile, in theory at least, you should feel motivated to go to get it. But there are people at the other end of the scale who curiously aren't able to do that for themselves. So they can't imagine what it is they should be doing, and they can't imagine what it looks like. But if you can imagine what this worthwhile purpose is, and you can visualize what it looks like, then you are likely to be able to identify it or assess it to the extent you can set goals and targets, and
Mhm.
especially milestones towards achieving it. So somebody with a strong sense of goal orientation has that picture of their goal in mind, and it can also create a picture of the journey towards that goal. That doesn't necessarily mean that they will actually do something about it, and we spoke about that on another
Yeah.
session.
And when you talk about purpose, it's really and there's some people use the word purpose, mission, what I don't know what the doesn't matter what the word is, but what sort of underlies your the meaning to life for you in a sense. And my purpose, I didn't realize this at the time, but when I was driving rally cars, and now I look back, I was absolutely driven by a purpose, which was to get the attention of my father, although it took me some years for that to land and for me to realize it. But if I hadn't had that intense desire and that purpose driving me, I would have given up at all when I was faced with all the obstacles and hurdles. I would have given up. It was my purpose that helped me achieve what I wanted to achieve. Um, and so when, whatever happened, and there was so many incidents that would have blocked and stopped other people from pushing through, I just leaned on that purpose. And that got me through. And I always encourage other people to just reflect on what the most, what's driving you through life, because there will be hurdles and obstacles for everyone. And if your purpose is really clear, that the why is clear, the how can become a little bit easier because you just sort of be very clear about why you're on this road to achieve a particular goal.
Well, for me, I think we've spoken about this, that there have been two kind of big moments where purpose has mattered. We have spoken in the past about sort of my lost years, a kind of late teens and up to early 20s, very early 20s. I kind of drifted. Um, I don't think people would have just even described me as lazy, which is something that people can't associate with now. But when I was selecting my A levels, I didn't have a say in the selection of my A levels. My school and my parents chose what A levels I should do. And when it got, and despite the fact I was doing something I wasn't particularly interested in, but could do well, I got to university and I didn't choose the degree I was going to study or
Wow.
this was all done for me. So it wasn't my purpose. I didn't, I got placed to, I had a very good course and a very good degree at university. I got opportunity to study biochemistry, which is very much the science of the future. People would have cut their right arms off to do the same. It wasn't what floated my boat. And I found I just couldn't really buy into it. And then later on, very successful career. I got to a very senior position. I was one of the youngest people ever to get to that kind of level in an oil company, and I threw it up because I I I had a sense of purpose. I thought I could do something for people and organizations that I was limited in doing, because I couldn't shape strategy in the oil company, but I could go and work with senior leaders in other oil companies, funny enough, and I could help them with their challenges. So I actually left my company and actually worked with Shell for a while, and doing some top level facilitation. And I just wanted to be able to do something more useful. And there's an interesting thing here that's true in general. It's certainly true about me, and it's kind of the idea of purpose is changing people's thoughts about motivation. What we now know is that money isn't the biggest motivator for people. About 20% of people are strongly motivated by money, which means 80% aren't. 80% are interested in the end of the day or at the end of their career, feeling they've done a great job, a job with a purpose, a job with a worthwhile purpose. They don't want to have spent 40 hours a week of their lives doing something simply because they got paid. Money is important for everybody. There has to be a basic level. You need to feel you're comfortable, you can eat, you've got to put a roof over your head. But the thing that motivates you to do that extra thing is your sense of purpose. And so, goal orientation in that regard is really, really important.
I'm often asked, Doug, I don't know if you ever are, who do you admire? And, and I said, well, you won't have met or heard of any of the people that I hold on a pedestal. It's the lady in Birmingham who, opened her garage up to help kids, who were truanting, learn how to fix an engine. That's the sort of person who I admire, that's just doing something because she's so driven by a purpose. That, to me, is just amazing to see, and the sacrifices that she made in her personal life to help the kids. And she was a volunteer. She wasn't getting any money for any of it, but my goodness, my respect for this woman was, and there's lots of people I've met through the years, that just are so clear about their purpose on planet Earth, and they get so much joy from the work that they do around their purpose, and they seem to be happier people.
Yeah, that's true. But it's even true in business. At one stage, we got a government contract to run something called Build Your Business workshops. And the most successful people that passed through our hands weren't the people who came along. And there were people who came along and said, oh, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 25 or whatever. They tended to be the most miserable people you could come across. The most successful people were the ones who had this kind of mission and purpose. And I remember one hairdresser coming along wanting to develop a business that created an experience for people. So she wasn't just about cutting hair. It was about, if you're going to come to sit in my salon for 2 to 3 hours, you're going to walk out of it feeling like $1 million. And she ended up owning about 7 or 8 salons in West Yorkshire. And I mean, I'm sure she actually made money as well, but that wasn't her number one motivation.
Yeah, it's so much more powerful, isn't it, when you're driven by something that means everything to you.
Yeah. But curiously, the other end of the scale, it's not necessarily the case that people can't understand purpose. What we find is that some people cannot form their own purpose. And curiously, that can be an advantage. So if I was a leader, I learned this when I was put into a senior management position. The most difficult people I had to work with were the people like me, all wanted to do something, but their own version of something. And getting them to focus on what I wanted them to do was a nightmare. The easiest people to work with were the people who came along, they wanted to do a good job, but didn't know quite what they wanted to do. And if I engaged with them in the right way and said, well, listen to what I've got to do. I'm trying to do this because of this. I could get them on board. And there wasn't an issue about them clashing with me. So again, what we're seeing is we're not talking about good or bad. We're talking about who you are, and we can all bring something to the party.
Doug, you always put it so well. Thank you. We love talking about this subject, educating people and helping people to develop self-awareness as well. And of course, I speak at events, you speak at events, but you also have the Mental Toughness questionnaire at AQR, and you're very keen for people to engage with that. So there'll be links in and around this video where you can click to find out more.